So let's look at the agenda for today. Today I was thinking, as I was biking back and forth from dropping my kids off from school, where I basically plan all of these out. My son forgot his backpack, which gave me a lot of extra time to think about it because I had to double up on the trip. But I was thinking, a common thought I have about mindset and doing things differently is that, like, there's a couple of things. One, people really come up with an excuse of why not to change, right? Because changing how you do things is difficult. Doing things in a new way is risky. And, like, it's really nice just to kind of, like, know what you're doing and keep doing that. I find that to be the case, right? Like, a lot of people, you train yourself up that, like, it's good to be challenged and you've got to grow and do all this. But, like, I'm not one of those people. I just want people to tell me that they like what I do, that I'm doing. I want to be able to do what I want and not have any sort of difficulty or learning, right? Like, for some reason, learning to me is difficult, right? Like, it's all about achieving difficulties. And I really don't, I think that part that makes people motivated by overcoming challenges, I don't really care. I don't want challenges. They're difficult. So to that end, when it comes to changing around how you're doing things in an organization, right, things are different than kind of that mindset, although it's good to be aware of individuals' motivations. But I think one of the things that happens in an organization when you're trying to change is it's easy for people, even yourself, the person who wants to change and transform the organization, to kind of fall back on this idea that, like, we can't do that because, right? Like, I find that people always can come up with a reason why they can't do something. And instead, you've really got to shift your mind around to, like, how do I achieve what I want, right? Like, how do I change and do something new? And I think one of the important things to realize is that a lot of the times you're going to blame rules or governance, people telling you that you can't do something because of a rule. And whether you've given yourself this task or, more often than not, hopefully you've been told by your management, by executives, even the board, whatever it may be, that you should be doing things differently. When it comes to rules, I think an important mindset to have that I've noticed over the years people have is they aren't thinking about breaking the rules or subverting them. Well, maybe subverting them is depending on the definition. Let's look that up. What does subvert actually mean? I always like to use the old Merriam-Webster. In fact, they have a dictionary in the App Store, the Apple App Store, that is quite expensive. But I think they are by far the best dictionary. And, it's kind of a trick of self-help books. I started listening to that Atomic Habits things. And, it's hilariously predictable that whenever they want to make a point, they'll tell you the definition of a word. As if, like, me, I'm always against, like, platonic truth. That, like, just because you establish something as the truth and you show it to people, I think that has almost zero effect on motivating them to do something. That's not true, but I think you should not trust that it will motivate them, right? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it's not deterministic if it's going to motivate people to do something. So merely by defining a word in a self-help book or an airport book isn't really going to help someone out. But I think it is important to kind of know the definition of words. So to overturn or overthrow the foundation, to pervert or corrupt by an undermining of morals, allegiance, or faith. So subvert is kind of good. There must be a positive version of subvert, which is almost like evolve, right? To change the status quo. So I'll have to look that up. That there must be a good version of subvert, but maybe we should. I'll try to avoid using that because that's not quite what you're looking for, especially if QAnon is referred to in the definition. We don't want to associate with that. Not cool. But anyways, subvert might be a way that you're thinking about the rules. But I think, as a sort of maxim or a rule of thumb, especially based on, as I was saying, people I've talked with who are the mavericks, the change agents, is they don't want to break the rules. They want to understand what the rules are, why the rules are there, right? A couple episodes ago, I think I mentioned the idea that you should always pay attention to and really ask why you're doing something. If someone tells you no, ask them why you should not do it, why they're saying no. And you can use the old lean rule of thumb of doing it 5 times, right, to do the 5 whys. I don't know. If you're lazy, you could do 3. If you're really, like, hyper annoying, you could do 10, but always ask why. And when you discover what the rules are, when you sort of learn them, I would suggest that if you have been asked to change, if you've been asked to do something differently because how your current organization exists, what the norms are not sufficient for whatever goals you have, your job is not to break the rules, but it's to find out where the edge of those rules are and almost break the rules, right? The rules basically express how you have been successful in the past. And so if you want to change, you need to change what the rules are. You need to push against the rules, go to the margins, if you will, right? And it's on these edges of how you're currently functioning that you're going to find your success. And I guess the edge could be in the middle as well, right? Like maybe it means reverting and getting more and more specific about the rules. We always think that change is all about doing things completely differently at the edge, but sometimes, especially when it comes to agile software development practices, it means that you haven't been hewing to the rules as much as possible. You haven't been actually following the rules. So instead of kind of going out to the edge visually and kind of breaking the rules, maybe it means that you need to go down further and further and get more dogmatic, more orthodox about following the rules. But the point is to find where the barriers of these rules, not the barriers, but where the norms, the average of the rules are, and go up or down from that average, doing them more strictly or less strictly. If you're looking to change how things are operating. So, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're worried about being a change agent and the governance and the rules. Like, I can't emphasize it enough. Your job is not to break the rules. You might decide to change those rules later officially, right? You might change your governance process, whatever the auditing is, but it's very important. And this is, I think, one of the many things that distinguishes a large existing normal company from so-called tech companies or whatever, right, is that the rules exist because they work and they're effective. You might be legally required to follow them. It might be the way that you function. But if you are a transformation agent, your goal is to change how things are done, and you should do that. So always find out what the edge of the rules are, and if you need to go up above those rules or go down. So then the next topic, and it's something that two of my managers, I think, really emphasized when I was working with them. One, when I was working with the second manager I had at Dell, this guy Namdi, he was great. He was a really good manager, and he was fun to work with. And another one when I worked with, as he likes to say, Andrew Clay Schaefer here at Pivotal. He's the one who hired me in at Pivotal, which now, as you know, is part of VMware when we work in the VMware Tanzu portfolio. And now that I've said VMware in front of Tanzu, I no longer need to prepend it with that. But they both had this kind of mentality in how we were operating that I think was really put well by Andrew. And I remember initially when I was hired into Andrew's group, we were working in marketing. And it was me, him, and a couple of other people, several other people, a small team of other people. And Andrew and I were thinking about, this is way back when, about how we would talk about what it is Pivotal was doing, because we were in the we were the tech marketing group, which was very small at the time. And I remember I kept asking him what the official messaging and positioning was, like what it is we were supposed to be doing. And at one point, I think he finally realized what he needed to tell me, which was, we are the ones who come up with that. We are the only ones. And what he meant by that is that we are the ones in charge of coming up with that. There's no one else who we can go to and appeal to. There's no one else in charge of that. We're the ones who have been set up to do that. And this is something that Namdi would often tell me as well. Maybe not so directly, because, Andrew is, I guess, a little bit like myself. He was good at reducing things down to small, quippy phrases. I mean, he still is. But I worked on strategy, on cloud and software strategy, and that's still what I worked on most of the time when I was at Dell. And oftentimes, something that Namdi would tell me, and also to be fair, my previous boss to him, Matt Wolkin, is because we were in strategy, because we were coming up with software and cloud strategy, we were asked to be the ones who came up with it. Now, you had to bring in, whether it was with Andrew and me and the couple of other people working on the messaging and positioning for what Pivotal and Pivotal Cloud Foundry and all that stuff was doing, or whether it was Matt, Namdi, and I in our various things working on strategy at the time. we had been the ones who, were asked to come up with these things, and we would bring in all the concerns and, other external forces. But eventually, what we had to do was come up with a position. We had to come up with what the truth was, so to speak, what the actual thing was. We were the cul-de-sac. There was no prime mover or anyone else before us. And sure, you can come up with what you think the ultimate thing is. And very often, it will be proven wrong or be insufficient, or people won't like it, and you'll have to evolve it. But you're the ones who come up with it. And I think that's an important sort of idea that I often in my work environment carry forward is, I got to have a position. And it's not so much that I got to have a position is one of those bravado lines that I think is useful to not pay attention to anymore, or to think about differently. It's kind of like in a similar area is like, using military analogies all the time is probably not good, right? You don't want to draw your analogies from a world that's largely involves killing people or maiming them, right? Like that's sort of not cool. And so you want to draw from others' areas. I mean, sports is a little better, but as someone who doesn't know anything about sports, it's also annoying to bring in sports metaphors. But, I think what's useful there is to think, instead of sitting around asking for what the answer is or asking for more input, eventually just like try something out, run an experiment, throw it out there, like see what sticks, if you will. And, be the cul-de-sac yourself, be the one that's offering something up. Because more often than not, what you'll find is everyone else is just looking to someone else to kind of like tell them what the action is, what should happen. And unfortunately, again, often when you're in the situation where you're being asked to improve or change the way your organization works or transform, it's because the existing state, the existing answers, the existing rules that people have aren't working. Otherwise, you wouldn't be changing. No one would be asking you to do that. So always be aware when it's time for you to come up with an answer, but then also be flexible, right? Just put it out there and don't be strident. Like just kind of figure out a way, applying the small batch loop, right? Come up with a theory of what it should be. How would you test if that theory was true? And then gather input from that if your theory is true or not, analyze it, and go through that cycle until you find the right thing for it. So that's really all I got this morning. Now, you may be wondering, how could I start that loop up? Well, I have 3 great things that you should check into. First, before I get into the usual CTA, I would ask this of you. I'm always trying to spread people being interested in this. If you watch this, if you're interested in it, you should just put it, somehow help me promote it. You can put it in a LinkedIn or a Twitter. You could email it to one person. I don't know. Do something. You can just, if you're watching this in YouTube, you can click the little thumbs up thing. Beats me. Figure it out. You can go out there and try to hustle more people looking at this. You could even send email. Now, I have this mysterious coworker. I'm not really sure who they are, but I keep getting their emails. It's this person, Codem. I don't know what that name is. It sounds weird, but it's COTEM at VMware.com. You should email Codem and tell them, again, I don't know who that is, but I keep getting all their email. You should just, you could email them and encourage them. Tell them that you like the show. But, you should help me hustle this more because it's nice to know that people are out there. So that's my first call to action. My other one, as you can see here, let me zoom in on the 3 that you have. If you want to find links to these, I'll tell them to you. But you can just go to kote.io/Tanzu Talk, and you can find links to them and show notes for this episode, which will be very small, and links to the archives of everything. But let's start in reverse order. 1, speaking of being an agent of change, right, and kind of figuring out how you're going to go about transforming your organization. We can help you out just kickstarting that, whether it's an hour-long workshop, a conversation with us, or a half-day or a full-day one. We'll come in, and we're pretty good at applying the 2x2 matrix. And we have a pretty disciplined way. If you've seen someone like Robbie, who I had on a couple episodes ago, I guess last episode, like he and the Pivotal Labs people, they help you kind of go through and figure out what to actually work on. Anyways, if you go to kote.pizza, as I'll show you right here, what you can do is you can jump right in and scroll down there. You can go to Software Development Office Hours, which is just a general way of saying, hey, we'd like to talk with y'all more and kind of figure out how Pivotal Labs can help out, whether it's from a business standpoint, an operations standpoint, getting your platform as a service set up, or a development standpoint and product standpoint, kind of getting the way you do development and work on your software, we'll help you figure that out. I mean, of course, we would like you to become customers of us. But really, I mean, I don't know, maybe don't tell anyone, but you can kind of get some free consulting if you really know how to kind of flatter us in like, oh, this is great stuff. Keep going on. And the more information that you give us about what your problems are, the more free consulting we'll give you as we try to make you become customers of us. And probably you'll want to become customers of us nonetheless. If we can't convince you that it's a good idea to spend money on us, then, we should do better. There's a feedback loop, right, that we pay attention to. Now, next, if you're a development person or an operations person, you should go to, if you're development, go to tanzu.vmware.com/developer. We got all sorts of development resources there. And if you're an operations person or a developer, and there seems to be a lot of them interested in Kubernetes, you can get all sorts of free training and education over at kube.academy. That's an actual domain name, kube.academy, that you can go to. And as always, you can go to kote.pizza to get a couple of copies of books that I have for free and everything that I've mentioned there. Now, I've got a recording coming up. We're actually talking with one of the instructors at kube.academy about the courses she's been working on for VI admins. That is people who are kind of VMware vSphere specialists. So I think I might broadcast that tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. If I broadcast tomorrow at my usual time, 11 a.m. Amsterdam time, or if I figure out how to rebroadcast that. But hopefully that'll be interesting for y'all to look at as well. Well, that's what I got this morning. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everyone probably tomorrow and every weekday, as always, at 11 a.m. Amsterdam time. And if you want to, if you don't want to watch it live, you can always go to kote.io/Tanzu Talk. You can see the complete list of all past episodes, and you can just check those out. And, with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.